We have apologies for Councillors Willoughby, Hussain and Pegg. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Within these, there's the note about making small changes to the governance statement. I think particularly talked about climate change. The aspect that that climate change was mentioned was because of the difference between the Council's view on this and the Cabinet's view, and there were other aspects similar to that that were raised as well. There was also discussion about team building, about the way we're managing neighbourhood funding at the moment, which comes up later in the agenda, and the impact that Brexit is having on recruitment of bin drivers and the impact that's had on services. Now, they were raised at the meeting, and I don't remember at that meeting saying sort of this one or that one is always not going to be included. I think it was being left up to the Section 151 office to decide what to put into that. So I was a bit surprised to have one item mentioned and not the other ones referred to. But I haven't been back to listen to the meeting again, so it's only from my memory of being in that meeting at the time.
Thanks, Councillor Kerr. Simon, was there any reason for the omissions or inclusions?
No, there are no reasons for omissions. As the author of a report prior to it being signed off by the leader and the chief executive, I picked up both the items mentioned in the committee and also some helpful comments from Councillor Kerr after the meeting in respect of small points of clarity. They are in the revised annual governance statement. Obviously that gets signed off and approved alongside the statement of accounts, which, as you'll discuss later, still is not in a final position with external audit to sign off. So rest assured, Councillor Kerr, that all the comments are reflected in the updated AGS that the Chair and myself will sign off at point of account sign off. Thank you.
Thank you for that reassurance.
Any other comments on the minutes? No? Can someone move them, please? Thanks, Councillor Grimmadell. Somebody second them, please? Thank you, Councillor Bettany. So next is the Audit and Governance Committee outstanding resolutions. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just quickly go through these. The first one on this outstanding resolutions, Appendix 1, is dating from the 27th of January meeting around the strategies to do with counter-fraud. As we said there, there's a small group has been formed to review the current policies and strategies. I'm going to be having input into it. Tracy Thomas, who's here as well, is going to help us out on that one. Legal are involved, and also we've got the assurance team that sits in Sarah Walker's section to help out as well, as they're doing quite a bit of work with me on fraud risk at the moment. And we're hoping that all those policies, along with the whistleblowing policy, will be coming to the January meeting, but we'll pick that up in the next item. The Terms of Reference Working Group met last week, and we'll be bringing a report through to the January meeting with some suggestions on a few changes. The main change, of course, was the committee's name, but we have added a couple of other things in for committee to see whether they feel that it fits in with the SIPFA model and what they expect from an audit committee. Simon's just covered the other item on there about the annual governance statement. The handbook, the chair has been through it and come back to me with some suggestions. We've got one chapter still to write on financial reporting, which I seem to have press gang Pete Shilcock into writing for me. So once Pete's done that, then we'll be able to let members have a look at it. But it's going to be very much a fluid sort of document. So we will change things. The members might come back with things like, oh, what about such and such? And we can add all these things in. Any training notes we get from other meetings and things like that, anything that comes out in the meantime, such as the results of the SITFA survey and internal audit, all of these will go on to the SharePoint site for members to look at through the handbook.
Excuse me, just on that one, I think you were going to try and find a way that myself and Stuart could access that, because obviously we can't do it through the normal members thing.
I've sorted that one for you, Philip. It's sorted. We can. Yeah, as long as what I'll need to do is send you any links via an email, and you should be able to get into it that way. If it doesn't work, we'll have to have a look. But I've tested it out, and it does work. The ongoing action still there. That's item 19 on page 5. Around the meeting should be apolitical. The training, the knowledge and skills exercise we picked up at the training group, at the terms of reference group as well, and that's something we'll look into as to you know, how we do that. And one of the key concerns there was around the fact, you know, that we don't have a constantly. The problem is that the members can change due to the elections 3 and 4 years, and it's getting. I mean, I think what we really need to do is a whole council exercise to get the skills and knowledge and who would be ideal for the Audit and Governance Committee, as opposed to the skills and mix of those already on it. But that's something I'm looking at the moment. And that's it on that, Chair.
Thanks, Richard. Councillor Grimmadale.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, Richard, to confirm that the handbook will be available by 1st of December, if that's still on target.
It's still on target for that, yes, Councillor Grimmadale.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. The last item on page 5 has the committee evaluated whether and how it's adding value to the organisation. It was suggested this might be talked about at the working group that we held last week. I don't think it really was, but I think there was an underlying presumption that we definitely, obviously, we didn't have to talk about something like that because it was so clear that we are a really useful body, but we didn't enunciate it as such. And I'm not sure whether, you know, how we take that forward. But possibly we should have, you know, come up with a set of bullet points as to why we're so helpful.
Just a few bullet points. Surely we could write pages, Councillor Kerr. Yeah, it is on the document, so something does need to be done. But yes, as you say, we did talk about how we added value to the organisation and how the training that we do provides value to the committee, which therefore provides added value to the organisation. I'm not sure if there's anything else that we can do on that. Richard?
I mean, it's the annual report that you send through to full council, which details how you actually meet your roles and responsibilities, and any added value can be brought out of that. And of course, there's item 13 as well on the agenda today.
Very true. Okay. Does that suit Councillor Kerr? Yeah. Bro, thank you. The next item is the updated committee work programme, which is Richard again.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as I've greyed out on there all the items that have been, as you can see, we've still got from the September meeting the Statement of Accounts and the ISA 260 there, which will then move forward to this meeting. And we'll pick that up later in the meeting anyway. All the items in red are items that have changed on the work programme. The one thing that I will say is we'd got the risk-based verification policy down for Wednesday the 26th of January. Following conversations with John Massey, that's going to move now to Wednesday the 24th of March. Again, it's one that comes to you every year just for confirmation that you're happy with what's in there. That's the only change that's happened since I talked through this with you, Chair, a couple of weeks ago.
Any questions from members? No. The next item then is Internal Audit Plan 2021-22 Quarter 4. Richard.
Thank you again, Chair. It's really rather early bringing the Quarter 4 plan, as we've only brought the Quarter 3 plan to you at the September meeting, so it's only just over a month ago. Normally what would happen is I would analyse where we're at Quarter 3 with that work and any new risks that have come in and build those into the Quarter 4 plan, and normally look to sort of present that to committee around the beginning of December time. Being a month early, I've not really had chance to have a look at where we are with Q3 stuff. There's one or two things, having spoken to my group auditors, that we're aware that we want to slip into Q4, so we've highlighted those in here. But I think the main thing is we've put together a plan for Q4. It may well change, but what we will do is we'll bring another report back if there are any changes to it to the January meeting when we have more time to assess things.
Committee is very quiet today. Thank you, Richard. I mean, there's something that links into this to item 13, but we'll discuss that under item 13. Any questions from anybody? No. Item 8, Richard, it's you again. It's just your meeting, isn't it? Internal Audit Progress Report.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to take you through the report, the key areas that I want to highlight to you, certainly on the progress on the 21-22 audits. I say 21-22, I've still got concerns. If you go down to page 5, that there are a number of brought forward audits still. The majority are now complete. The one that's causing me most concern at the moment is the one in the communities in place, business continuity, impact of COVID-19. We agreed a scope on this one originally with the management. They then came back to us and said, oh, we want to change a few things. Could you do some consultancy work with us on this, which we agreed. We discussed it at the corporate risk management working group as well. That was put forward there because business continuity is one of the things that gets reported there, as does internal audit. And so it came out there. But now they want to revisit the original scope. They don't think there's enough ammunition or work to do on around changing things and needing consultancy from internal audits. They want to go back to the original scopes. That's why that one is still, it's taken an awful long time to get there, but we are now actually moving on that one. I will keep you informed as to progress on that if it goes slowly again. But hopefully that's on the move now. The other ones in there, that the Section 106 agreement is down as in progress. That's now been issued in final. Boundary defence is moving forward as well. Again, that's been down to issues around getting buy-in from IT to help us with that because of all our other priorities, and also the fact we've only got one IT auditor at the moment, and he's been stretched on other things as well to help out with other things at the City Council. The payment system one has also been sent out in draft, which is under corporate resources, and the budget management one is still out in draft, but we're negotiating on that one. It's taking a bit of time to get responses to that, but I've contacted the Director of Financial Services, and she will persuade her heads of finance to speed the responses up to us. They've given us some responses, it's just that they've not agreed some of the issues in there, and we need those agreed to say, if the issues are wrong, then there's another issue there that we need to have a look at. So we just need to get that sorted out. Audit coverage, on page 6, you can see there that 6 audits have been issued since we last reported to you. 2 substantial assurance and 2 reasonable assurance. There's not a great deal I want to draw committee's attention to on these, given that we can give good assurance on those. So there's nothing major there that we would say committee need to look at. Recommendation tracking. If we go down to the actual significant and moderate risks, they're the key ones. They start on page 13. Again, we're not getting the responses as quickly as you can see from here. I've contacted the Strategic Director of Communities in Place, and she's asked her service directors for them to get more involved and get the managers to respond to us. And they're the ones around the CCTV, which has been some time there, and the bus station, which again, we're not getting responses to, but has been reported through to you on a lot of times. The bereavement services one I've mentioned to her, you did have an update from Doug Walkman, who's the head of service, a few months ago on that one, and Doug's keeping me informed as to progress on that. They are trying to put a business case together, so that's what's delaying that one. And then the other new one that's come in as a significant risk is around neighbourhood boards, but that's a caretaking arrangement now with Derby Homes are picking that one up, so we'll monitor what Derby Homes are doing, but they're doing a more in-depth review of it all. The moderate risks as well, I've asked those to be picked up as well. The only one we haven't picked up on that one is around the catering one. And I've kept committee informed on that one anyway, and it's not something that recommendation is something we will pick up when we do a briefing to you on the system's weaknesses. And that's all I've really got to say on that, Chair.
Thanks, Richard. Philip?
A couple of things. Could you just explain for a layman exactly what boundary defence is? One. And I've got a couple of others. You want to do that first?
What we're looking at there is the IT auditor, is principal IT auditor, is having a look at all the, he does quite a lot of things around. To be honest, we call it boundary defence, but it's much more involved. He looks at all sorts of things, particularly around is there any other access to systems, who's got access to systems if they've left, that type of thing. So it's really making sure that the council's IT systems are protected from there's all their vulnerabilities are being looked at, and make sure we're not subject to hacking, that type of thing. But also when people leave the council as well, that there's areas around that we are making sure that people haven't still got access and those type of things. So it's really looking at the security of the IT systems from the firewall point perspective.
Does the fact that people are working from home make that more an issue than it otherwise would be, or does it not matter?
One would hope that the controls are in place for home working. I mean, the firewall, we're all coming in using VPN anyway, so it's the security around the VPN and the Citrix networks should be as they always are anyway, and shouldn't really be affected by home working, because it's always been in place anyway to allow home working even before the pandemic.
Thank you. Just one other on page 7, the Beckett well. Tucked away down there, there's a thing about interest not being declared by council officers and things. I seem to remember I raised that at a previous meeting. It seems to be an issue that perhaps interest being declared or not being declared seems to be an issue not just necessarily for Beckett well, but across the board. And might that not be an area that you need to do some bit more detail looking at?
It is, you're right, Philip, it is an area that keeps cropping up in this. We found it in quite a few of the contract audits that we've done. It is something that's on our radar. I mean, I'll worry, and I'll ask Martin oversees all these audits. I'll ask Martin to jump in a minute. But one of the concerns we have is the fact that when we mention it to officers, they don't always, how can we put it, accept the fact that they should be declaring interest. It becomes a bit of a surprise to them. Is there anything you want to add, Martin?
That was my point. It's cropping up at a number of places, and not just contracts and other areas. So perhaps it needs looking at across the board, officers, members, everybody. But that was my point, and you're really confirming what my suspicions were. I think, yeah.
Well, yeah, we have got it.
Thank you.
Banned from the indicative audit.
Simon, did you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah. Just to confirm, obviously this is good practice, but it's a low risk. It's not that there were any conflicts of interest found, but we have been introducing a new project management platform and all the information on My Derby, which is going to create a lot of that control framework about how we operate our projects, the disclosures, the record keeping, the benefits record realised and everything else. So we're upping the game in terms of how IT supports this. But as Martin will say, it's something about having that as a standard control that we should be asking whether people have any of that in their decision making. The project board for Beckett Well is actually an officer project board and does not have any members on. I think that's right, Martin.
It's all of the boards on that, so there
Yeah.
are some members on some of them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Had you finished your questions, Philip? Super, thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. I've got several points, if I may go through them. I don't mind if doing them one at a time or in groups. The first one is the legibility of the dashboard page, where it's really difficult to see the keys. So maybe we can present that in a different way next time. The second point is on the bed and breakfast response, there's the sixth point has listed as a future action at the end of September. And I just wondered if that future action was, we knew anything more about it. In that it doesn't seem future from today's meeting.
I haven't been updated yet, Councillor
We don't
Kerr,
know
as to
anything
whether
on
we've
that.
had a response on that, but we will follow it up.
I'm not sure whether it's more of a political question, but I shall raise it anyway, in that we're talking about the use of Amazon Prime. And I don't know how that links to the council's objectives, like supporting local businesses and climate change and equality and pay things. It just seems to be a bit contradictory that we've got a significant listing of Amazon Prime. And I don't know whether that's something that somebody needs to question. I was quite concerned that we've still got this bus station apparently not moving forward. And I'd like reassurance, really, that these concerns that we've got about cash handling at the bus station are actually being taken seriously, because nothing's changing.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, we've contacted the strategic director and she's gone out to her service directors to get them to do things. It's already been agreed with the chair and vice chair, if we don't get any responses, that the relevant managers will be invited into the January meeting to update committee on where they're at with things or why they're not where they should be.
Thanks for that, Chair. There's comment about our keeping of documents, the ones that we have on site, but have we looked at what our off-site document security is like? Is that something that we've audited?
We haven't audited it recently. We audited it a few years ago. It's something that, again, is something that's it's low risk as we see it at the moment, but there are a number of controls. We know there's a number of controls in place. Audit were involved when it was originally set up, when we actually went out to tender for the off-site document storage. So I went down with the people doing that and actually visited the site where it's all stored at. But again, it's one of those areas that will come up, and it should be something that's looked at on a regular basis anyway through retention policies. We need to be making sure that that's operating properly, because all those documents on the external storage site should have document retention times on them, so they should be being destroyed appropriately, and that's perhaps something we do need to have a look at.
Thank you. I feel if we're worrying about the few documents we hold here and we're not worrying about millions somewhere else, we may not have things in proportion. I've got a comment here. It says MTFP when published. I'm sorry, I don't understand my notes. Does that make sense to anybody? Well, it's the item. It is the item on page 15. But it's, I know, it's the development of the corporate approach to a commercial strategy. And, when are we actually going to get it? Because this has been hanging around for quite a while, more than 2 years now. And I think that particularly in our current financially challenging state, it's something that we should be able to move forward on. And so it's really, when's that going to happen? And my final point was about the CCTV, which, again, I'm just wondering what priority that has got. It seems to be, as a responsibility, it seems to be a bit past the parcel to somebody else, and somebody else who appears to be really busy as well. So I'm not sure how seriously we're actually trying to deal with solving that problem. So those are the last two.
Simon, did you want to come in on the MTFP
I
item?
can probably answer a couple of the other questions that were not addressed there. So I think all members know that one of our enabling strategies is called Working Smarter. which picks up items like intelligent council, commercialisation, contract management, digital enablement and everything else. The commercial strand is being led by Sam Dennis, who's our Director of Street Pride and Public Protection. And about 6 months ago, we appointed a commercial officer to help us create not only a strategy, because a strategy by itself doesn't really achieve a lot, but work out what the council's commercial ethos is, the dashboard reporting of opportunities, cost and activity, and everything else. His reporting to a Working Smarter board on Friday that I chair about progress, and has briefed me on it. I would hope that commercial strategy would be produced in this financial year, so by March. Just in respect of Amazon Prime, you're aware that we use procurement cards and other items, and one of the areas that I think the committee considered previously was a lot of one-off spend with very poor management information as people went around the city using our cards to spend. Amazon Prime and having this corporate account is an important part of getting quality information to make sure that what we're spending on low-value items where procurement cards and everything else are sensible, that we have a management information about where it's being spent and whether it's delivering value for money. So I know that isn't answering your question on whether the Amazon Prime parcel comes from many miles away, but I think the importance of financial control here, which is about making sure that we spend the public pound wisely, probably at the moment is of a significant benefit to us. We can then look at whether there's opportunities for more by local type arrangements through procurement cards and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the ones, Councillor Kerr, that I've raised with Rachel North. There is an issue that we are concerned about. I think the thing that came out of the audit when we looked at it was there was no one person with responsibility for CCTV. It fell under a number of people, and that was one of the key recommendations. But you're right, it is being sort of passed around at the moment. I think no one really knows quite who's the best person to be picking all this up. And as you say, it's now currently sitting with someone that's already snowed under with several other tasks as well. So that's hopefully something that we can get sorted out with the Directorate.
I was going to say, just to come back to that one, the CCTV issue was something that I raised at our pre-meet, especially given sort of recent announcements of more money being used for CCTV in the city, and we need to make sure that it's overseen and handled and managed properly, and that, yes, someone needs to take ownership of it, and ideally someone who has the time to take the ownership of it. I would suggest that perhaps we maybe even ask someone to, Rachel or whoever is relevant, to come to the January meeting just to discuss it, because it is an item of concern for committee. I was going to come back on something else as well, and I've forgotten what it was. Something highly exciting that Lucy said, so I'll think about it. Any other comments from committee members? Councillor Grimmadell.
Talking about, Chair, talking about CCTV, I just wondered if there was the opportunity for members to actually view how the CCTV works.
CCTV by itself has lots of information governance restrictions, which would indicate that it's actually quite difficult to provide people who don't have a need to see CCTV images access to our control room and to see information which is caught for a particular purpose. So I will take that away, but having had a look at it in my career previously, we can probably do a non-live example of how we use it and give you information on the sites that we have and how information and the monitoring happens. But it is difficult, unfortunately, to give you live experience of that space because of information governance, data protection need to see the information. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Does that answer your question,
I
Councillor?
think, Chair, I think the first recommendation that Simon made, I'd take that up. I'd take that opportunity up. I think I've asked before on previous committees. It would just be interesting to see actually how it does operate, but I would accept the first recommendation. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Alan. The thing I wanted to come back to, Lucy, was the Amazon Prime issue, and I wonder whether it's something that we can pick up with procurement at our training session. It's certainly a question that we can ask, because I appreciate that this has been brought in because of items that we raised previously, and it does have a good sort of control over financial spend and people running around with lots of cards, but obviously it does lead into other climate impact and local procurement issues. So yeah, potentially something that we can add to our training session in a couple of weeks.